Hi, konnichiwa. Welcome back to Toy Princess. Today is part 2 of the Disney Princess Enchanting Story Pack with 8 storybooks. Today we're going to be reading Aurora's Dream Wedding and Mérida's Mysterious Horse. So let's get started with Aurora's Dream Wedding. Princess Aurora dreamed many times that a handsome prince would find her. She wished to live in a world with her true love, good friends, and not a single evil fairy. Luckily, her dream really did come true, and although their parents had decided years earlier that Aurora and Philip would marry, the couple had fallen in love on their own. Philip asked for Aurora's hand in marriage himself. She, of course, said yes. Word of the royal wedding spread far and wide. With the ceremony only a day away, the kingdom hurried to prepare. Prince Philip made sure his horse Samson had a bath by promising him an extra bucket of oats and a few carrots. Even King Hubert and King Stefan found a job to do, tasting treats. "Everything seems to be going well in hand, Your Majesty," said Flora. The Queen smiled. "Yes, it does. And now I'll leave you, my dear Aurora, to choose your royal dress. Have fun." But Aurora was feeling nervous. She hadn't made any royal decisions yet. As the Queen left, the dressmakers burst in. "These dresses are so lavish," said Aurora. "How will they ever fit in the wardrobe?" "If I may, Princess," said one of the dressmakers, "we'll take away your old clothes to make room." But these were the clothes that Aurora had worn before she learned she was a princess and not a peasant girl. "What's wrong, dear?" Fauna asked her. Aurora sighed. "I don't know how to be a princess. What if I'm not very good?" She wasn't even sure which silverware to use. When Prince Philip came by later, he had a splendid idea. "Would you like to go for a walk to get away from the wedding planning for a while?" "Oh, that would be wonderful," said Aurora. "I don't know how to act like a princess," Aurora told Philip. Philip took her hand. "My dear, you will be a wonderful princess. But if we're really worried, I think I know someone who can help." Back at the palace, Flora wanted to use her wand to make Aurora feel better. "Aurora has to feel princessy on the inside," Merriweather explained. Fauna paused. "We should ask the Queen for help." The good fairies and Prince Philip had both had the same idea. Together they led the Queen to Aurora. "Dear Aurora, I understand that you are worried, but being a princess isn't about what you do. It's about who you are. A princess is honest, intelligent, and kind, and that's exactly what you are." Thank you, Mother, Aurora said. Then she paused. I just had an idea about the wedding dress. Could I possibly wear yours? The Queen smiled. It would be my honor. On the day of the royal wedding, the entire kingdom celebrated. King Stefan walked Aurora down the aisle. She looked every bit a princess in her mother's dress, and better yet, she felt like one at last. At last, Aurora and Philip said, I do. After the royal couple greeted their guests at the reception and shared a piece of wedding cake. It was time for their first dance. As they twirled, Aurora felt as if she were dancing on air. The royal wedding had been exactly as Princess Aurora had imagined, once upon a dream. That was a lovely book, Aurora's Dream Wedding. Now, let's read Mérida's Mysterious Horse. It was a soggy, stormy afternoon. Mérida sat on a bale of hay in the stables, reading from an old book. She and her horse Angus wanted to go for a ride, if only the weather would clear. Look, Mérida said, pointing at a picture. Magical horses! That one's called a kelpie. It's a water horse. Angus snorted, shaking his head. It was clear that he wanted nothing to do with magic. The raindrops slowed and the clouds scattered. Come, lad, said Mérida to Angus. The sun's breaking through. Let's go for a ride. They galloped across the bridge and down the hill. Just as they reached the woods, a flash of grey caught Mérida's eye. What was that? She gasped. But Angus didn't want to follow whatever it was. Don't be a ninny, Mérida told him. I'm sure it was not a bear. Mérida guided Angus to a clearing. In it stood a magnificent grey horse. His coat shimmering, his mane was like fine silk. Excited, Mérida whispered to Angus, I know that horse is magical. The horse lowered his head toward Mérida as she approached. Suddenly, Angus blocked Mérida's path. Angus, she called. Don't be jealous, lad. This horse must be lost. We need to help him to make sure he's safe. Mérida talked to the grey horse, and he responded with a soft whinny. Mérida swung onto the horse's back. She didn't have a bridle, but she knew she could guide him with her hands wrapped in his mane. The horse bolted, but Mérida wasn't frightened. She had been around horses all her life. Mérida tried to calm the horse, but on he ran. They were headed towards a large loch, a deep, dangerous lake. Suddenly, it seemed to Mérida as if her hands were caught in the horse's thick mane. The horse brushed against a tree, and some trapped rainwater fell on them. One of Mérida's hands came free. Just ahead, a bridle hung from a tree. Mérida stretched to reach it as they passed, but it was just beyond her fingertips. Angus, help! The bridle! She called. Mérida could only hope that her friend had heard her. There was a cliff just ahead between them and the loch. The horse will stop before we get to it, won't he? Merida thought. Merida tugged and pulled on the horse's mane. Nothing worked. She even tried to slide off his back, but she couldn't jump off. Merida looked up at the sound of a whinny. Angus rushed over just in time and steered the horse away from the cliff's edge. Merida saw the bridle Angus carried. He threw it towards her. She caught it and slipped it over the horse's head. The horse finally slowed to a stop. Merida was no longer stuck. She jumped off, safe and relieved. The stallion stood quietly. Slowly, Merida removed the bridle. The horse nodded and galloped off towards the misty shoreline. Was he disappearing into the water? Merida wondered. Or was the fog playing tricks on her eyes? Back at the stable, Merida looked at the book she'd been reading. Once a bridle is put on a kelpie, the water horse will do your bidding, she read. Merida and Angus looked at each other. Maybe they'd found a magic horse on their ride after all. That was a good book as well. I hope you enjoyed reading Aurora's Dream Wedding and Merida's Mysterious Horse. Tune in again for part 3 of the Disney Princess Enchanting Story Pack. Thanks for watching Toy Princess. Bye!